Our dogs just got Cardinal shirts. We got Cardinal shirts
Hey,
for our dogs. They don't make any good BYU pet gear, by the way. I'm putting this out in the universe. We got to get some of that out there. They
there
make
you
great
go.
NFL stuff. If you're not Georgia, Alabama, or Texas, there was no good selection of any BYU stuff. But
It's a bummer.
and we welcome you to your Week 8 preview. Wow, already dropping the ball without Cole here. Week 8 preview of Wilk and Wiss, minus the Wiss today. Got to excuse Cole feeling a little under the weather. I find it ironic that our guest on today's show is a division rival fan of Cole's Steelers. So we welcome Connor Henline to the program. Well, Connor, I'm feeling for you a little bit right now as a Brownie, man. I felt a little bit when we asked you to come on, this was well before any Achilles news, any
Yep.
trade rumors were popping up. Been a rough week for you folks in Brown's Kingdom.
It's been a rough 7 weeks. It's been very unfortunate. I had high hopes coming into this season, knowing that Nick Chubb was going to be back. I was hoping for the old Deshaun Watson to be back. Yeah, I had a lot of high hopes, and looking at the defense that was there last year, most of the guys returning this year, I was thinking wild card at a minimum this year. But the way this season has started, it right back to the same old Browns. So it's been unfortunate.
So we got to hear the story. You currently live in Arizona, but obviously spent your whole life in Utah up to this point. And we'll get to you
Yes.
being at the Cardinals game this past week, which I texted you right after and said, please go to the rest of the home games if it ends like that.
Absolutely.
Uh, how'd you become a Browns fan being in the state of Utah?
So it's probably a lame story, but up through probably elementary school, my brother was a Vikings fan. I had friends that were fans of all sorts of other teams, and I found myself more cheering for just BYU players in the NFL more than anything. Anytime a Cougar would get drafted, I found myself cheering for him and that team, and following the story. And so I didn't really have much of a team through early years, and then random enough, sixth grade. I don't remember what it was, like a scholastic fair in the library at school. I somehow got a hold of a Braylon Edwards poster. Random enough player, but put it on my wall. And from that point on, just because I had the poster, I started following him, started following the Browns, and so I started considering myself a bit of a Browns fan at that time, but I hadn't fully committed. I mean, that's a hard team to commit to. And I still was following a lot of the just Cougars in the NFL, but over time, I followed them a little closer. And then I guess I should preface it with I can't stand bandwagon fans. So I don't know if it was the pain of being a BYU fan growing up, and every year the holy word come around, all of a sudden the whole school's a Utah fan and rubbing it into my face. But so there's a lot of pain with that, and being a Jazz fan and a Colorado Rockies fan, I guess I just like pain in general and like to be hurt. But so it'd come natural, I guess. But several years ago, I was in a fantasy football league, and a good friend of mine said, "Hey, you need to just really commit and be a fan of a team." And so at that point, I was like, you know what, I'm all in. Let's do it. And as random as it might be, I love the Browns colors. I love the brown and orange. I People love to make fun of the name the Browns because it's a color, but I think few people realize that they're named after the coach Paul Brown, and I think it's awesome that they're named after somebody that was such a big part of the organization. And um, I like blue collar football, like the outdoor, in the weather, in the cold. And I know they're talking now about building a dome in Cleveland, but I love seeing the raucous crowd in the cold weather, putting the bags on their heads, all the different stuff that the dog pound has done over the years. So it felt like a natural choice to me. And I didn't, as fun as it was following BYU players in the NFL, I didn't want to get connected to a team because of a player and then have that player leave. So I just dove in with both feet for the Browns, and it's been a painful ride, but it's been enjoyable.
Well, my wife asked me last year, why the heck did you pick Arizona? Your brother's a Packer fan, your dad's an Eagle fan. They've both seen your other brother's a Colts fan. All three of my, immediate family members that have teams have all seen their teams do it. Get
Yep.
to the get and win a Super Bowl. And she gave me an out, and I stayed loyal. I said, nope, like
Good for
this is
you.
what you do. This is what you do. You commit. And on top of that, you and I are diehard Jazz fans, so
Exactly.
the pain has already started tonight. Game one
Oh
in.
my gosh.
We're recording this on a
Oh,
Wednesday, and literally right after the Jazz lose their first game, I just tweeted capture the flag. I'm going to tweet that after every single Jazz game this year, because that was me a year ago with the Cards. I wanted Marvin every week. I'm like,
yep,
how do we get Marvin Harrison? How do we get Marvin Harrison?
exactly.
Which we'll get to that in a minute,
That's a
yeah,
whole nother story.
yes, very cool with the Braylon Edwards thing though. That's a deep cut. That is,
Yeah.
you see the memes about the couple laying in bed and she's like, he's probably thinking about another woman. It's some guy thinking about some random receiver from like
Yep.
2005.
Yep.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It
you
all
know,
started with Braylon Edwards.
and I played with Madden '08 was my first real Madden that I played a lot of on the Wii. So you're actually
Awesome.
throwing, you're doing all. I mean, I was every team, man. Braylon Edwards was one of my favorite guys to throw to
There
in
you
those
go.
early Madden, in those Madden '08 days on the Wii. So,
I love
uh,
it.
well, now you live in Arizona, where you were in attendance at the Cardinals game. Was it just fun to be an innocent
Oh,
bystander at a football game? I've never
oh my
been able to do
gosh.
that in my life. I've
It
only
was
ever,
awesome.
yeah.
So yeah, I've got a friend back in Utah, back in Gunnison, who his son is the same age as my son, and his son's a big Chargers fan. And so as soon as the schedule came out, I texted him and I said, "Hey, Chargers are coming to town Monday Night Football. Let's do this." And so he and his wife came down, brought his son. My cousin ended up coming down, and I took my son as well. So it was six of us, and we bought the cheapest tickets we could get up in the nosebleeds. And funny enough, I was telling the general manager of the company I work for here in Arizona. I said, "Hey, going to Monday Night Football tonight," and he said, "Oh, how cool! Well, where are you sitting?" And I told him, and he said, "Well, we've got company seats on the 14th row, 50-yard line. Do you want them?" So we got upgraded last minute.
Wow.
So it made the experience that much cooler too. So we had awesome seats. We showed up right as the gates opened, and it was so cool just watching, with it being Monday Night Football, seeing Chris Fowler walking out on the field, Dan Orlovsky, Molly McGrath, and then funny enough, Kurt Warner came walking by, and my friend flagged him down and got a picture with him, and
Oh,
it was just so cool sitting there watching Kyler warm up with Marvin Harrison. And but what was interesting is I've always been such a big college football guy because I've always gone to BYU games, and it's fun seeing like the student section and the passion there. But what was crazy to me, seeing it was a lot different of an atmosphere. This is my first
mm-hmm.
NFL game, by the
Yep.
way. So seeing the tailgating before walking in, and then seeing grown men decked out, face paint, everything, and just acting like children. I absolutely loved it. The atmosphere was just awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to go back.
And the NFL is so interesting too. Like you said, it's a completely different thing, completely
Mm-hmm.
different. And I've only been to one game. It was at that same stadium, Kyler's rookie year.
Okay.
It was a company trip. My boss had forgotten
Oh,
that I was
nice.
a Cardinals fan. So he books the trip, buys the tickets, and then realizes, oh my gosh, I forgot we have a Cardinals fan that'll be coming to this. So, and we had great seats as well. I think we were about the
That's awesome.
25th row at about the
Oh,
40.
nice.
So straight,
That's perfect.
great angle. Larry Fitzgerald was still playing. He's my all-time favorite. He's the
Oh,
reason I
that's
love.
awesome.
He's the guy I fell in love with Arizona. That Super Bowl run that they had.
Oh,
So in a way, I bandwagoned it, but then didn't jump on until after when they were bad again. Is
hey, that's
what ended
great.
up. Max Hall got 2 starts for the Cardinals back in those days, and that's the elusive jersey I need to find, is a Max Hall
It's
Cardinals jersey. So,
and the Browns jersey, funny enough, that I'm going to go for next is a Taki Taki. I know he's gone, but I
yep,
need a Taki Taki Browns jersey.
absolutely. Well, and that has been a lot of people, I think, here in the state, right? You root for guys you watched in college where we don't have our own team. That's a
Yep.
big, and my co-host, he's from Pittsburgh. Like he's
Oh, awesome.
from the Penn State area, like in between Pittsburgh and Penn State. So I mean, he kind of gets both sides of the coin. Where a
That's
lot of us
awesome.
here, until you do experience that first NFL game, yeah, it's a whole
Yep.
different thing. So
With my son, he's 8 years old. He's going to be growing up down here in Arizona. even though I'm a Browns fan, I am pushing him with everything I have to be a Cardinals fan. Cheer
Let's
for the
go,
local
dude.
team. Be all
Yeah,
in it. So yeah, it should be fun.
that's great, Matt. Our dogs just got Cardinal shirts. We got Cardinal shirts
Hey,
for our dogs. They don't make any good BYU pet gear, by the way. I'm putting this out in the universe. We got to get some of that out there. They
there
make
you
great
go.
NFL stuff. If you're not Georgia, Alabama, or Texas, there was no good selection of any BYU stuff. But
It's a bummer.
anyway, speaking of which, my friend, I am making a last second trip to Orlando this weekend.
Oh, no way.
So crazy how this came about. I'm calling a high school game Friday down in Cedar City. North Sanpete is playing at Canyon View. They always do this during the early playoff games. They move them up an hour. So the game
Okay.
kicks off at 6. I thought, Vegas is 2.5 hours away, and it's way cheaper to fly out of Vegas. And my dad,
Yes.
I should preface, my dad has had tickets to this game in
Okay.
Orlando for like a month now. He and my
Awesome.
mom had a Disney World trip planned. They just flew down from North Carolina. It made too much sense, man. Taking the red eye, gonna make it there
No
with
way.
I gained the hour going to Vegas. Like it just made way too much sense.
That is awesome.
Got to thank the Capital One Venture card for having some miles,
Yes.
making so man, it's just football, man. Football is just fun.
That's
It's just part
exciting.
of it. So
I'm excited to hear all about it. And not to keep this podcast going down the BYU route, I'll be quick, but we just bought our tickets today for BYU ASU. So excited about that.
and that one's still tempting me where I'm already coming down for a Cards game in December and now doing this. I don't know that I'm going to quite make it out for ASU, but boy,
If you do, let me know.
I will give a shout if that does in fact happen. So
Awesome.
well, let's get to the pick 'em. I'll be announcing my pick and then Cole's pick, and then Connor, feel free to chime in with your rhyme and reason why
Awesome.
you're going with the team.
Yeah. Perfect.
Last week was our winner so far. Our good friend Joe Williams, producer at Centricom and Team Hive, went 12-3. So you got to get
Ooh,
to 13 wins
awesome.
this week. So got to have a pretty darn good record. Let's start with Thursday Night Football. The Rams are taking on the Minnesota Vikings. The Rams do not look great after barely beating the Raiders. As there's a lot of banged up teams in football right now, and the Rams just seem like since that Super Bowl win all in, that's kind of been the lowdown for them. I'm actually going to take the Rams. I just feel like even though Minnesota lost to Detroit this last week, eventually is Sam Darnold going to start seeming like Sam Darnold? It's a risky pick, but my gut's telling me to go with the Rams this week. Cole is going with Minnesota.
Okay, Minnesota to me has kind of been the surprise team. I'm sure they've surprised a lot of people. When JJ McCarthy went out, I thought that was going to doom their season, but the more I think about it, unless you're a Jaden Daniels, I think a lot of rookie quarterbacks suffer their first season or two. So maybe it was a blessing for the Vikings to have more of a, I don't want to call Sam Darnold a seasoned quarterback or a veteran, but he's been around the league a little bit. And so Vikings have been a surprise team. So I'm going to go with them this week. I know they fell last week, but I think they're going to stay hot.
It makes no sense to pick the Rams. It really doesn't. That's just it's one of my upset. You got to pick an upset every once in a while.
They might have some of their weapons back. Who knows?
Yes, I saw Puka's coming off IR. Probably not going to play this week, but hopefully next week. And it sounds like Cooper Kupp's back, so should be interesting. Sunday action: Jets. Oh, the lowly Jets taking on an even worse New England Patriots team. Although Drake May didn't look bad last week, I think the Jets finally get something done. They were able to beat up on New England pretty bad earlier, and even though it's Drake May, Hassan Reddick is playing, so the Jets at least have one more week as an excuse, right? We didn't have Hassan Reddick. I'm just going to take the Jets, even though I really would love. I think it'd be hilarious if New England wins this game. Cole is also going Jets.
Okay, I find it hilarious that everybody last year was saying that the Jets were just a quarterback away. And I'm not saying Zach Wilson is something he's not, but it cracks me up to see them having a worse season this year with Aaron Rodgers than they were last year. Devontae Adams, I was expecting a little more out of him last week. I think this week they get it done. Drake May did surprise me. He played better than I thought, but I'm definitely going Jets. They're going to get one of those wins that I've been expecting for a while. So
This is the one this next game is the one I've had the hardest time with. I've flip-flopped on this a million times. Philadelphia in Cincinnati. Now the Bengals, it's September's over. They're looking a little bit better. Philly doesn't seem like a 4-2 team though, the way that fan base is kind of acting, the injuries that have kind of happened. But Philly's got Saquon, and that Bengals defense still is not great. I'm going to go Philadelphia. Cole, in a surprising move, is going Cincinnati. Cole does not like to
Oh,
pick Cincinnati, but he went with the Bengals this week.
going with the division rival. Well, these two teams are the Browns' last two losses, so I've got a sour taste in my mouth against both of them. But it's funny you said that about the Philadelphia fans. I feel like they did have a bad end to last season, and I think they've still got a sour taste in their mouth there. I think the sky is not falling in Philadelphia right now. They've got some really good weapons. Saquon's looking amazing. AJ Brown should be back and healthy going forward, and I think they get it done. Cincinnati, they've also got weapons, but I still think there's a lot going on there. I'm taking the Eagles.
The Packers in Jacksonville taking on the Jaguars. My brother's going to be at this game. His third
Oh,
Packers game this year, which
no
is
way.
insane. Yeah, he went to Lambeau week 2 when they played Indy and then at Tennessee. So this is his first time getting to see Jordan Love. It was Malik
Awesome.
Willis starts the first 2 weeks. So I'll be in Orlando with my dad. My brother will just be up the road in Jacksonville. I'm taking Green Bay. Jacksonville, even though they got the win over the pond, just not enough to match what Green Bay's doing right now. Love's healthy. Those 4 receivers, it doesn't matter who he throws to. It's got 5 legit weapons to throw to. And Josh Jacobs, man, underrated pickup for Green Bay.
Absolutely.
Cole also goes Green Bay.
I think. Oh, never mind. You went Rams. I was going to say I think I've copied you every time, and I swear I've got all my picks already made in advance.
Same.
But I'm also going Packers. I've got Travis Etienne in fantasy football, and he's burned me so much. I'm mad at that whole team right now. So I'm a big Jordan Love fan. Like you said, Josh Jacobs has been a great pickup, and then coming back from England, that's not a short trip. I think I'm taking the Packers here.
Yeah, flipped. I felt very good about flipping Travis Etienne in my dynasty league right before the season started. Feeling
Very
very,
smart.
even though I'm 1-6, I've got a ton of picks. Anyway, yeah, very interesting there. Well, I think we're going to be on the same page for this next one too. Tennessee is in Detroit. I don't even know what else to say. Cole picked Detroit. I'm picking Detroit too.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Will Levis, that whole Tennessee program right now is it's laughable. So
It's
yeah,
bad.
Detroit.
This is an interesting division rematch. Atlanta and Tampa Bay. That was a fun Thursday night game a couple of weeks ago. Couple big injuries in Tampa. I'm taking Baker at home. I think Atlanta is still just not quite there. Kirk Cousins still is just not quite trusting that leg the way he maybe was hoping to at this point in the season. And I just love Todd Bowles, man, underrated head
Yeah.
coach. I'm going to take the Bucks. Cole takes Atlanta.
If the Bucks didn't have the Monday night they had, I know they put up a lot of points, but if they didn't have those injuries, I'd probably be following you on this. But those are some big injuries to have to overcome. They're on a short week after playing Monday night in an emotional game. I'm going Atlanta here.
A game I was tempted to make the drive down from Orlando to Arizona is in Miami. I almost made it work.
Yes.
I almost made it work, but having to fly back into Vegas, there was just no way. And then driving back up to central Utah, there was just no way to make that work. I mean, I could have maybe,
Yep.
just driven right to the station, pulled right into work, not even come home. But Cardinals at Dolphins sounds like Tua's going to play. And for that reason alone, I'm taking Miami, even though Arizona's coming off a big win. Phil Dunphy said it best: key to a good birthday, low expectations. So that's, as a sports fan, that's where I'm at right now. Even with BYU undefeated, I think Tua coming back, it's going to be a very emotional game for Miami having him back. Cole went with Arizona, so
I love the Phil Dunphy quote. That's wonderful. I love the Modern Family gifts that you post or that you tweet. I love it. Tua, I mean, that offense without Tua, you can tell it's all been structured around Tua. They can't do anything without him. Tyreek Hill is very pedestrian without Tua there right now. And I know he's coming back. but I think I've got a lot of recency bias after seeing the Cardinals in person. I mean, Marvin Harrison still not going like I thought or that I hoped, and they're not really throwing the ball deep down the field like I was hoping to him. But I'm gonna ride the Cardinals on the road. I like I said, just some recency bias there. It was a lot of fun watching them, and hope they continue it.
Our guest team, and what's been a very rough, as you mentioned, season, really rough week in Cleveland. They host the Ravens, who, aside from Kansas City, are probably the best team in football. Other than an early blemish to the Raiders, they've looked pretty darn good even against Kansas City. I've only picked against our guest one time, but I've gotten every single pick involving our guest team correct so far this
Wow.
season. I
Wow.
just can't quite do it. I'm taking Baltimore. Cole also takes the Ravens.
So I Ken Dorsey's now taking the play calling on the offense, taking it away from Stefanski. Nick Chubb's back and healthy. Believe it or well, I don't think I have to say believe it or not. It's not a hot take. I'm excited about Jameis Winston getting the start. I think it's long overdue. I mean, I shouldn't be relieved that someone's injured, but Jameis Winston, I never thought I'd say it, but he's the guy. I wish we would have never gotten rid of Flacco. I wish Flacco was still in Cleveland making plays. Everything's lining up. We have a pick 'em in our work office that I have never picked against the Browns, and this was the first week I am. I still can't. I still can't pick the Browns. I've gone against them or for the Browns every single week, and I've just been burned so much. And the Ravens are legit, and it makes me sick to say it, but for the sake of the pick'em, I'm going with the Ravens.
Taking Phil's advice. I'll buy you a copy of Philosophy one of these days. We'll make it happen. Oh, Indianapolis and Houston. The Texans coming off a disappointing loss. I don't think CJ Stroud plays that bad 2 weeks in a row. Green Bay's defense is very underrated, and so is the Colts. But I'm taking Houston. Cole has taken Indianapolis.
Wow. I just complimented Flacco. There's a lot going on there in Indianapolis, but all I can still see is that beat down Houston gave the Browns in the postseason last year. So that's still in my mouth. So I'm going Houston because they were impressive, and I think that CJ Stroud's a stud.
It's rare. I say this every week on the show. It's rare that I love a guy from Ohio State the way I love CJ Stroud. And Marvin's the exception. He plays for my team. I've wanted him for years, but CJ Stroud, man, love the kid. Love. I
literally told a friend last week who I went to the game with, I said, I've never liked an Ohio State quarterback till CJ Stroud.
And I didn't even like him at Ohio State other than, Utah. But
that Rose Bowl.
Yeah. Crazy. Saints taking on the Chargers. Boy, the Chargers are banged up. The Saints are really banged up. I'm just going to go with the Chargers. I still they still played well enough to beat Arizona, right? I mean, just having to settle for those field goals really obviously hurt at the end of the day. Their defense was not bad by any means against Arizona. And boy, the Saints without Derek Carr, without Taysom Hill, without Rashid Shaheed, sounds like Chris Olave is a maybe this week. I'm still taking the Chargers. Cole also went with LA.
Too many injuries for the Saints. Across the country trip to LA. LA, like you said, the Chargers, they looked good last week. There was that fluky fumble at the 1 yard line that was a touchback. There was a lot of things that went against them, and I think they get the win this week.
Seattle hosting Buffalo. This is kind of an interesting one. Cross-country trip for the Bills. With Amari Cooper looked a little bit better. That might also be
that hurts. That sting.
Our good friend Brant Stevens was very happy today. He was out of town over the weekend, so I didn't get a chance to catch up with him until today about how he felt about everything, and he's very happy about the addition there. I'm taking Seattle. I feel like Seattle is just this very I can just see Seattle win 3 games. Lose 3 games, win 3 games. I think being at home helps them out a lot. And I think Buffalo just needs one more week to fully figure this. I like a close game. I don't think Buffalo gets blown out by any means, but I'm actually taking Seattle. Cole took Buffalo.
This was one of the more difficult games for me to pick. It's tough to win in Seattle. This is probably one of those games where Kenneth Walker just goes crazy, but I like Buffalo. I think adding Amari Cooper to that offense is going to be really impressive because it doesn't look like Josh Allen needs many targets to just go off, and he hasn't thrown an interception all year.
Isn't that something?
That is wild.
Given his
Absolutely
track
crazy.
record in the past, just
Yep.
crazy. Yeah,
I'm
amazing
going
what.
Buffalo.
Oh, and he's not force feeding one guy. So yeah,
Exactly.
kind of
Exactly.
interesting how that's worked out. This
Yeah.
one's a fascinating one. Chicago is in a Washington taking on the Commanders' first and second overall picks. That's always a big conversation game. Out and that this one taking place at FedEx Field. Jaden Daniels is doubtful as of today. This is Wednesday. Keep in mind we're recording this on a Wednesday. I'm still riding with Washington this week. Just the vibes, the leadership that Dan Quinn has been reborn in a way. I think getting out of Atlanta for a few years was really good just for his psyche as a head coach. And I think they are just further ahead than Chicago is on offense, even without Jaden Daniels. Chicago still got holes on the offensive line, different things like that. I expect a close game here too, though, but I'm going Washington. Cole went with Chicago.
This was the most difficult game. I said the last one was tough, but this one was the most difficult for me. When I made my pick, I was 50-50. I didn't know Jaden Daniels, if he was going to be doubtful or how he was sitting, but I decided either way, I think the Commanders look too strong. Chicago's shown some life. They're coming off a bye, so they've had an extra week to rest up and prepare, but the Commanders are looking impressive, and I think Jaden Daniels are not. They get the win at home.
The Carolina Panthers come. It could be worse, my brother. You could be a Panthers
It
fan.
could be worse.
It could be worse. Head to Mile High to take on the 4-3 Denver Broncos. The way Denver looked after 2 weeks, man, I tell you. And John, don't mess with Sean Payton. This guy knows what he's doing. Get this: Denver is a 10-point favorite in this game. Believe it or not.
Wild.
In the league that Jaden Daniels has been my starter, Justin Fields had been my backup. Who's starting for me this week in this one league? Bo freaking Nix is starting for me because it's Carolina. Should Jaden Daniels be out another week? I don't know that Bo starts for me 2 weeks in a row, but for this week, Bo Nix is starting for me in this league. And yeah, Denver's defense has actually been very, very good.
Yeah.
I took Denver. Cole took Carolina. Bryce Young is starting. Andy Dalton, kind of a scary situation there with a little car accident. I think he's long-term going to be okay, but there were some scrapes and bruises. They're going to start Bryce Young again this week.
I already felt very confident taking the Broncos in this one, which I never thought I'd be that confident in picking Denver. But then when I saw the Andy Dalton news, I immediately knew, well, Deontay Johnson's going to be a non-factor now, and this game's over. Denver's winning it.
Kansas City goes on the road to Vegas. Gardner Minshew's the starter again by default. Aiden O'Connell breaks his thumb. Chiefs got DeAndre Hopkins this morning. Now, what has been Patrick Mahomes' biggest issue with receivers? It's been drops. DeAndre Hopkins does not drop the ball very often. No. So expect this to be a pretty seamless transition there. Kansas City should win big. This is a perfect week to work him in to Andy Reid's system. I'm taking the Chiefs. Cole also went Kansas City.
Having Kareem Hunt, DeAndre Hopkins, and Travis Kelce as weapons for this offense years ago, that would have been absolutely crazy. Patrick Mahomes, he'll still make it crazy.
Yeah. That's a championship fantasy team from 2015. Absolutely. Like crazy.
Absolutely. This is a no-brainer. It's obviously the Chiefs. As much as I love Gardner Minshew and his character, he's not going to be able to get it done.
Interesting Sunday night game. Dallas coming off a much-needed bye after getting just wiped. Ran into my cousin the other day, who's a big Cowboys fan, and he's like, man, I have never been more happy to have a bye week than this last week. San Francisco does not look great. One of the most injured teams in football, but their depth is still very good. It seems like one guy goes down, two more guys take their place, except those two guys have also been getting hurt. But a few more guys come back this week for San Francisco. I think that's enough where they're at home that they end up winning. Cole also took the Niners.
Dallas is probably the toughest team to predict in the whole league.
Agreed.
It feels impossible, but San Francisco has also been difficult to predict this year. But like you said, the depth, that defense, I love everything about Fred Warner, obviously. I've got to go the 49ers. They're winning this one.
That's your Sunday night primetime game. Only one game this Monday. The Giants taking on reincarnated Russell Wilson and the Steelers. Cole was a very happy camper last Sunday night, and I have the feeling he's going to be a very happy camper come Monday. Made the comparison. This Russell Wilson looked a lot like Arizona Carson Palmer. Not quite his Cincinnati self, but kind of better than he was in Oakland, better than Russ was in Denver.
Yep.
So we'll see if it lasts. We'll see if it continues. The Giants at least do have a good pass rush. That'll be a good test. But this Steelers D, there's just no way Daniel Jones is scoring on TJ Watt. That's just not going to happen. I'm taking Pittsburgh. Cole also went with the Steelers.
Yeah, this one's a no-brainer to me. Pittsburgh gets it done. It pains me to say again about a division rival, but they get it done, and congratulations, Cole.
Yeah, he's a pretty happy camper these days because they've just kind of been in this meh, right? Pittsburgh's just kind of been this average. Guys are starting to get a little tired of Mike Tomlin, which is just crazy to think about. But no, there could be things happening in Pittsburgh, which is the way the schedule's going, which is interesting. So
absolutely.
Well, Connor, my man, it was good to have you on. That was a blast. Appreciate your insights on. We always love hearing how people became fans, right? And I feel like our stories are very similar. Me becoming an Arizona fan, I just kind of picked them because they weren't Denver. Everyone liked Denver, and I remember looking it up one day. I'm like, it takes the same amount of time from Utah to drive to Glendale as it does to downtown Denver. So why not take
I'm
the
happy
Cardinals?
to hear you say that. I've never understood why there's not more Cardinal fans in Utah, but everyone is a Broncos fan. But all those Bronco games are broadcast on TV, and
right.
I guess that's
right. Well, and now with Vegas being there, I think we've seen an increase in that here in the state, and that might have been who I went with as a little kid. You know, I mean that might have been a thing. So kind of glad it wasn't. Still would rather be a Cardinal fan than a Raider fan, but. Appreciate you, my man. Good luck with Famous Jameis this week. Always a good time talking ball with you, my friend.
Likewise. Have a safe trip and an enjoyable trip in Orlando. I can't wait to hear about it and send a picture or two.
Yes, sir. Go Cougs. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
He is Connor Henline. Big shout out again for Cole Wissinger not being with us today. Cole, hope you get feeling better. And we'll catch up with you good folks on Mondays. Cole and I give our recap following the Monday night game. This has been Wilk and Wiss, your Week 8 preview show. Appreciate you tuning in, and we'll catch up with you all on Monday.